Hey, family, before we go one more step, I need you to do something for me. If this is your first time here, welcome. You didn't stumble onto this channel by accident. Somebody, somewhere, is praying for exactly the words you're about to hear. So do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button, not because I need a number to go up, because I want you in the room every single week when we sit down and talk about what it means to walk with God in a world that is loud, fast, and constantly pulling at your piece. Subscribe. Turn on the notifications. And when this is over, I want to hear from you in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what part of this hit you the hardest. And tell me honestly what I can do better to serve you next time. This channel only grows because you tell me the truth, so don't be shy. Now, turn your phone on silent, close the other tabs, get a pen if you need one, because for the next hour, we are not talking about hustle. We are not talking about 10 steps to a better you. We are talking about one decision that changes every other decision you'll ever make, putting God first and letting Him lead your day. WHY first matters. Here's something I've learned the hard way. It is entirely possible to love God and still not put Him first. You can believe in Him on Sunday and still run your Monday like you're the only one steering. You can pray over your meals and still forget to pray over your meetings, your marriage, your motives, your mood. First isn't about belief. First is about order. Think about your morning. What's the first thing your hand reaches for when you wake up? For most of us, it's not a Bible, it's a screen. And within 60 seconds of opening our eyes, we've already let 15 strangers, 3 algorithms, and 1 news cycle set the emotional tone for our entire day before God ever got a word in. That's not a phone problem. That's an order problem. When God is first, He's not one option on a list of priorities you juggle. He becomes the lens you see the whole list through. Your work doesn't compete with your faith anymore. Your faith shapes how you work. Your relationships don't compete with your relationship with God. He teaches you how to love the people in front of you. There's an old truth that's been quoted 1,000 ways, but it comes down to this. Seek Him first, and everything else you've been striving for finds its proper place. Not because striving is bad, but because striving without direction is just exhausting motion. You can run fast your whole life and still end up nowhere you actually wanted to be. So here's the question I want sitting in your chest for the rest of this hour. Who is actually leading your day? You, your anxiety, your calendar, or Him? Because whoever leads your morning tends to lead your mood, and whoever leads your mood tends to lead your decisions. And your decisions? Those become your life. Crust, ein, hard seasons. I want to talk to the person watching this who is in a season that doesn't make sense. Maybe it's a diagnosis you didn't see coming. Maybe it's a marriage that's hanging by a thread. Maybe it's a bank account that doesn't match your bills, a child who's walked away from everything you taught them, or a grief so heavy you've stopped explaining it to people because you're tired of watching their faces try to find the right response. Here's what I need you to hear. And I need you to hear it gently, not like a slogan on a coffee mug. God is not the author of your pain, but He is not absent from it either. Trust doesn't mean you understand what's happening. Trust means you keep walking with the one who does, even when the path is dark and you can't see 3 feet in front of you. Scripture doesn't promise us a life free of storms. It promises us a God who walks through the water with us instead of leaving us to drown in it. Isaiah captured it this way. When you pass through the waters, He will be with you, and the rivers will not overwhelm you. Let that sit for a second. Not if the waters come. When? God never promised a stormless life. He promised His presence in the storm. I think one of the enemy's favorite lies is this. If God really loved you, this wouldn't be happening. That lie has ended more prayer lives than almost anything else I know. It convinces people that pain is proof of God's absence, when so often pain is the very place where His presence becomes most real. Not because He causes it, but because that's where we finally stop performing and start reaching. Hard seasons strip away the noise. They strip away the pretending. And in that stripped down place, something sacred can happen. You stop trusting your plan and you start trusting his character. That's the shift. Not, I trust that this will turn out the way I want, but I trust him, regardless of how it turns out. That kind of trust isn't naive. It's not denial. It's the most courageous thing a hurting person can do. To look at an unresolved situation and say, I don't understand this, but I know who I belong to. If you're in a hard season right now, I want you to whisper this out loud if you can. I don't have to understand it to trust him in it. Say it again if you need to. Some truths don't sink in the first time. They have to be spoken until they become the ground you stand on. Spiritual growth, H, discipline, and God's timing. Let's talk about growth, real growth, not the kind that looks good on a highlight reel. Spiritual growth is almost never dramatic. It's not usually a mountaintop experience. It's the boring, faithful, repeated choice to show up, to open the word on the day you don't feel like it, to pray when your prayers feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling, to obey in the small thing when no one is watching and nothing seems to be happening. Discipline gets a bad reputation. People hear the word and think restriction. But discipline in the life of faith isn't a cage. It's a trellis. It's the structure that lets something wild and beautiful grow in the right direction instead of sprawling out into chaos. Without it, even good gifts get wasted. With it, ordinary days become the soil where character takes root. And here's where I want to press in, because this is where so many of us get stuck: God's timing. We live in a culture of instant everything, instant messages, instant delivery, instant answers. So when God doesn't move on our schedule, we start to panic. We start to wonder if we misheard him, if we did something wrong, if he's forgotten us. He hasn't. There's a difference between delay and denial. A seed planted in the ground looks, for a long stretch of time, like absolutely nothing is happening. But underneath the surface, in the dark, in the place you can't see, roots are forming. Growth that doesn't show yet is still growth. God is rarely early by our clock, and he is never late by his. That in-between space, the waiting, isn't wasted time. It's preparation time. It's the place where he's building in you the capacity to actually carry what you asked for. So if you're waiting on something right now, a breakthrough, a healing, a door to open, don't mistake the waiting room for abandonment. Some of the most important work God ever does in a person, he does while they're still waiting for the answer to their prayer. Overcoming fear, Rejkian, anxiety, heartbreak, and dubte. This next part is for the person who's been carrying something heavy and smiling through it anyway. Let's take these one at a time, because they each deserve their own moment. Fear. Fear whispers worst-case scenarios and dresses them up as wisdom. It tells you to stay small, stay quiet, stay safe, and calls that being responsible. But fear was never meant to be your compass. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing obedience in spite of it. God didn't say fear not because fear is a sin. He said it because he knew we'd need to hear it over and over until it became louder in our spirit than the fear was in our head. Rejection. If you've been let go, left out, unchosen, or unfollowed, hear me. Rejection from people is not the same as rejection from God. People reject based on limited vision, wounded history, and their own insecurities. God receives you based on who he already knows you to be. Being unchosen by a person, a job, a relationship, it stings, and I won't pretend it doesn't, but it is not a verdict on your worth. Sometimes the door that closes is God protecting you from a room you were never meant to stay in. Anxiety. Anxiety often isn't a lack of faith. It's a body and mind trying to carry a weight they were never designed to carry alone. There is no shame in feeling anxious, but there is freedom available in this. You were never meant to hold tomorrow's problems with today's strength. God gives grace for today, not a stockpile for every future maybe. When your mind starts spinning forward into everything that could go wrong, that's your invitation to bring it to him, not to pretend it away, but to hand it over, piece by piece, as many times a day as it takes. Heartbreak. Some of you are grieving something you haven't told anyone about. A relationship that ended. A dream that died quietly. A version of your life you thought you'd be living by now. Heartbreak is real, and faith doesn't ask you to rush past it. God is close to the brokenhearted, not distant from them, not disappointed in them, close to them. Let yourself grieve. Grief processed with God doesn't leave you bitter. It leaves you tender in the places that matter and strong in the places you need to be. Doubt. And doubt. Doubt is not the opposite of faith. Doubt is often faith wrestling with reality, trying to find solid ground. Some of the most faithful people who ever lived wrestled hard with God. Wrestling isn't walking away. Bring your questions to Him instead of burying them. A faith that's never been questioned is often a faith that's never been tested. An untested faith rarely holds up under real pressure. Here's the thread that ties all 5 of these together. None of them disqualify you. Fear, rejection, anxiety, heartbreak, doubt. They are proof you are human, not proof you've failed. God isn't waiting for you to arrive with a spotless, fearless heart before He'll use you. He specializes in exactly the people who are still in process. Walking witch confidence, Feirdruge Fate confidence, real confidence, doesn't come from having it all figured out. It comes from knowing who you're walking with when you don't. There's a version of confidence the world sells. Performance-based, appearance-based, comparison-based. It's exhausting to maintain because it depends entirely on circumstances staying favorable. The moment life gets hard, that kind of confidence collapses. But there's another kind. A settled, quiet confidence that isn't rooted in your ability to control the outcome. It's rooted in your relationship with the one who already knows how the story ends. That's the difference between confidence in yourself and confidence in God's presence with you. One is fragile. The other can walk you through fire. Walking in faith-filled confidence doesn't mean you never feel small. It means you've learned that feeling small and being unequipped are 2 different things, because the one who called you doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. I want you to think of confidence less like a personality trait and more like a muscle. It grows every time you take a step you weren't sure you could take, and you find out God was already there. Every act of obedience, no matter how small, builds a track record between you and God. And that track record becomes the foundation your confidence stands on the next time fear tries to talk you out of moving. You don't need to feel ready. You need to be willing. Readiness is often a byproduct of obedience, not a prerequisite for it. Part personal responsibility, which God's goodance, guich goodance, goodance. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get preached on enough, your part. Grace is not a substitute for responsibility. It's the power that makes responsibility possible. God leads, but He does not do the walking for you. He gives direction. You take the step. He gives strength. You show up to use it. He opens the door. You're the one who has to walk through it. I've met people who use waiting on God as a spiritual excuse for staying stuck. Prayer becomes a replacement for action instead of the fuel behind it. But real faith looks like praying and preparing, trusting God with the outcome and doing your part with excellence. Faith without corresponding action isn't rest. Sometimes it's just fear wearing a religious costume. Personal responsibility under God's guidance looks like this. You own your choices, you own your growth, you own your healing process instead of waiting for someone else to do the inner work for you. And you do all of it leaning on Him instead of leaning on your own limited understanding. This is partnership, not performance. You're not earning God's love through your effort. You're cooperating with a God who has already chosen you and who invites you to build something with Him rather than watch from the sidelines of your own life. Strength, wakeness, the H-Arge, God's promises. I want God's promises. I want to close this teaching where so many of us actually live, in our weakness. We spend so much energy hiding our weak places. We curate the strong parts and bury the rest. But God has a strange and beautiful pattern throughout Scripture. He keeps choosing the weak, the overlooked, the unlikely, the ones who felt least qualified. And He does His greatest work through exactly those people. There's a promise that says his strength is made perfect in weakness, not despite it. In it. That means your weak places are not disqualifying. They are the very places where his power has the most room to move because you finally stopped trying to do it all in your own strength. If you're weary right now, tired in your body, tired in your faith, tired of holding it together, that exhaustion is not a sign that you're failing. It might be the exact place where God is inviting you to stop striving and start receiving. Those who wait on the Lord renew their strength, not those who muscle through alone, those who wait, who lean, who rest, who trust. You don't need to be strong for God to use you. You need to be willing to let him be strong on your behalf. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. So here's where we land, family. Putting God first isn't a one-time decision you make and never revisit. It's a daily surrender. It's waking up tomorrow and before the world gets a word in, saying, God, you lead, I'll follow. It's bringing him your fear instead of managing it alone. Bringing him your waiting instead of rushing it. Bringing him your weakness instead of hiding it. Let him lead your morning and watch how differently he leads your day. If this spoke to you, if even one part of this hour landed right where you needed it, I need you to do two things before you go. First, subscribe to this channel because next week we're going even deeper and I don't want you to miss it. Second, leave a comment below. Tell me what part of today's message hit you the hardest and tell me honestly, what would make this channel serve you even better? I read every single one. Until next time, put him first, let him lead, and watch what he builds. Go in peace.